Hello and welcome to Feedback for the week of March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. If you are watching this on St. Patrick's Day, go Irish. Yay.
Aye.
And drinking a lot. So in order to, go indulge ourselves for St. Patrick's Day, we're now going to go through the show. I am joined by
St. Patrick.
By St. Patrick clapping. Abby Happy, Sterling McGarvey.
Hello.
So we got back from GDC. We're live.
Still sick, though.
I'm actually kind of sick. Yeah, it's.
Hopefully you don't get it through the show.
Yeah.
Is that transferable through iTunes?
I don't know if I puke right here on the board.
No, then we're all going to be sick.
Yeah, but it's going right through
I
the mic.
escaped one convention not being sick. I'm so happy.
Yes, we have PAX just to see if we can, once again hold true.
Oh, no.
Don't remind her.
So let's get to some non-GDC news that happened last week, and that was the February NPD numbers. Game industry didn't do too hot.
Yeah, I mean, the game industry is kind of still on a downward trend. We're seeing some year-over-year improvements, but still the industry is in need of some booms, and we're not quite getting them. I mean, you're seeing games like Bioshock 2 selling 562,000 copies is good, but it's just not.
It's probably nowhere near what they had projected.
It's not.
No.
It's they shipped a lot more than what we've seen sold for that game. I'm sure it'll sell the 3 million that they wanted to, but that's going to be over time. And it's just the industry just doesn't have. It needs. The Wii, DS, keep selling extraordinarily well. The Xbox 360 outsold the Wii this
was
month.
the one thing that I thought was kind of remarkable is that they had a very strong February.
Yeah, the industry just needs like a big thing to rally behind. And
I think it's Just Dance.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which I
It's
like
been
to
selling steadily on the
let's
NPD
Let's discuss
charts.
this. Number 4 on the software sales is Just Dance from Ubisoft.
Starring David Bowie. Title song, Let's Dance.
Let's Dance.
That may or may not be true.
I don't know if that is the case. No one sitting in this room actually has played Just Dance, but I think what's
Actually,
interesting.
that's wrong.
Oh, I take that back.
Skip has photos of me from PAX last year when I decided on a dare.
Did you play it? Okay, I was to say not willingly. We may have to caveat that.
No.
willingly
It was
playing.
on a dare. It was like I dare you to go over there and play Just Dance. I was like, fine, take pictures.
Did you dance?
Now,
Yes, I danced.
did your experience with
was
Just
amusing.
Dance give you any insight into what's happening with this game that seems to be resonating?
I'm sure that it's a combination of factors. A, it's probably highly appealing to 10-year-old girls based on the way that the aesthetics of it look. B, I'm sure the word of mouth is fantastic on it. And C, you're coming off of what was the most ridiculous December we've ever seen in gaming for Wii hardware sales. I think all of those are creating a perfect storm for casual audiences, a.k.a. nobody who's probably watching this.
Miley Cyrus on the cover.
No, I don't think
Who's on
Miley
Is
Cyrus
anyone
is-
tied to the game?
I
don't
I
know.
I
haven't
heard the
even
Spice
seen
Girls.
what
The
it looks
Spice
like.
Girls are in it.
Yeah, I do know that there were
the
some
songs,
appearances
I
with
don't
what's Scary
packed in
Spice's
the
name?
box.
Was it
Miss
Mel B.
Mel B.
Mel
that's
B.
it.
Mel.
This is a conversation
I'm
of
not.
ignorance we are having right now.
I know that. Yeah,
I know the
she
Spice
has
Girls.
been attached to the game, obviously because of the inclusion
Okay.
of the Spice Girls. Well, congratulations to anyone who's responsible for Just Dance because you clearly have done something very, very, very well. Dante's Inferno. Sterling, I know that you found this rather interesting. It has positions 8 and 9, but the PS3 version of Dante's Inferno outsold the 360 version, despite the fact that the very similar game called God of War 3 was just on the horizon and only for the PS3.
That's
Although that
why-
is a Divine Edition. Which is,
Yeah. Well, that's what I find decidedly curious. I kind of assume that, okay, there's 360 owners that are going to look at this game and say, oh, this is a lot like God of War. This reminds me of God of War. And then you had that strong ad right after the Super Bowl. So I just assumed that, the 360 sales would just be stronger than PS3. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like Abby's pointing out and Patrick had
Nothing-
pointed
yeah,
out
Yeah,
earlier.
maybe look at
Edition.
Arkham
You
Asylum last year. Warner Brothers essentially cut a deal with Sony, or the other way around, to produce exclusive Joker DLC for Arkham Asylum. And we saw that was able to push ahead just enough of the 360 that it doesn't have to be a huge amount for Sony to say, look, it did sell more, and then get more publishers to cut deals like that. And that's, if you can pay the same amount for the PS3 version and get more, I mean,
Yeah.
why?
And
why
that's
not?
it. They're
Yeah.
close.
Yeah,
I mean, I
they
was about
are
to say,
very
we are talking
close.
about 20,000 copies. It's not.
But they get to say they outsold it. And that's
Exactly.
all that really matters.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about what I think is the most impressive game to be on this top 10 list. At number 10 is Heavy Rain. It's so 219,000 in the final week
Of a short
February.
month.
So this was in the last week of a short month. more interesting is that we know worldwide in that first week from David Cage when I was interviewing him, 600,000. I mean, it did sell better in Europe, I'm assuming, but wow. I mean, this game, how?
I mean, I think we were all hoping that it would. Just even getting it to number 10, I feel is like a small victory, like the victory that we needed, because we all were sort of bracing for this game being an epic sales failure, but being a critical darling, and one of those games like, oh, I wish they'd make more of those, but no one buys them. And I mean, I expect this game is hugely front loaded. I don't expect that this is, I think it could sell some going forward, but I don't see it right now having the word of mouth that it's going to carry it forward much farther than this month.
It's funny you say that, because that's exactly how I felt about the first BioShock. When BioShock was coming out, everybody was saying, this game is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be fantastic. Oh, God, I hope it doesn't flop. And then word of mouth caught on. The demo was really good. I think the response was a lot stronger than Heavy Rain. But as you were saying that, the critical darling that doesn't quite make it, the last game I could think of where it was a big success story was indeed.
And also, every way that
BioShock.
we've seen Heavy Rain presented in the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years that we've been seeing it, a really long time, it's been really intriguing. But as someone like on the outside, I could see, seeing those demos and seeing how kind of just odd and maybe not to what to expect. Maybe people are looking for something different. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there can be so many factors behind it, but
220,000 with that horrible packaging that Sony should be ashamed of.
Yeah, I don't care how it happened.
I'm just glad it happened. I'm glad it happened. I do want to, to your point about BioShock, it's interesting to compare it with that, because we all have believed that BioShock really did do well with very strong reviews that were so good that Take-Two stock had an uptick.
It also
right
had,
after all the reviews came out.
A phenomenal demo. Just before it came out that drove pre-orders like way up. And
but David said that they believe that the success, or at least the initial success of Heavy Rain, is attributed to all the reviews for it. I guess as our reviews editor, Sterling, I mean, have you ever wondered how much of an impact we have on sales? So I've been told in the past that we don't, and sometimes I think that we do.
I think it's a bit of back and forth. I think people do go to there are plenty of people out there who go to us and they value our opinions, thankfully.
Us as in the press, not just G4.
No, not just us. But I think there's a certain amount of weight to it. I mean, I guess it's kind of the back and forth. You see the same thing paralleling in Hollywood as well. You get your Oscar darlings where like, no, they may not. They don't always perform as well, but you usually get one or two where the buzz is fantastic on it. The critics really push it, and then it just gets shoved over the edge, and then it hits critical mass.
I mean, we could see this as like the good for you game. There's always those movies where like, I don't really want to see it, but I think I need to kind of see it because it's good for me.
And I think too, a lot of times when we've seen this, if you go and read the comments for any of your reviews, a lot of people argue with you because you didn't give them the validation they wanted for that game. Like, they thought it deserved a 5 out of 5.
Lordy.
You give it a 4 out of 5, and they don't like it just on principle that doesn't matter what you said. It's just they didn't give you the score that you liked. I think with Heavy Rain, a lot more people were on the fence. And so when the reviews came back so universally positive, a lot of people were like, I'm going to wait on this one, see what my friends say. Instead, it looked like pretty much everyone liked it, and it kind of pushed a lot of people from a meh to a buy.
I think it was also the combination of a lot. The consensus was it's not a perfect game. It's got its issues, but what you will love about it, what you will love about it outweighs what you will dislike about it, and it's something that everybody should play.
And you can't satisfy those gameplay desires in any other game out there.
Exactly.
It's like, this is your only choice right now. So those are NPD numbers. I do want to read a comment from GameLife1, and this is
a good one, actually.
Yeah. I wonder if the PS3 sales were affected at all due to the serious shortages they've been experiencing lately. Also, I'm glad to see Heavy Rain did so well in only 1 week. I have a feeling that it will be one of those games that doesn't ever sell amazingly well, but sells consistently over time. There are PS3 shortages, which is a horrible thing to have happen when God of War 3 is launching.
They called it not ideal, I think is their official stance on it. But yeah, God of War 3 is a huge system seller for them. They're on a huge forward momentum, and all of a sudden you might be selling to the people you already have, but they're going to, if they miss that first week with you, that might be pushed to buy a PS3, and then they look at something else.
Do you know what's causing these shortages?
They haven't explicitly said. It sounds like maybe they weren't anticipating all the sales from August onwards through the holiday, and just it's not like you can just flick a switch and then
it's something there's more
magically
PS3s that are available.
That's something you need to anticipate months in advance, and I think it might be some. The Wii is having trouble too, not as much to an extent as a PS3, but it might not be too closer to summer that they're fully replenished.
I mean, there's this
The Wii is with shortage
where
problems? I've never heard of that.
Sony, it's starting to feel like Gilligan. Like they're just about to get off the frickin' island, and then he drops a coconut on his foot, and the whole thing goes higgledy-piggledy.
I
mean, it's terrible.
It goes what?
It goes higgledy-piggledy.
And he dropped a what?
A coconut. I don't know. I haven't seen the episode of Gilligan's Island.
I get the reference.
He gets
It's
it.
not that obscure.
I just wanted him to run through his mouth.
I just wanted him to say higgledy-piggledy again.
Hey, I
was
was
pretty
profane
funny.
last episode. I'm trying to go in the opposite direction and sound like I'm, writing for Reader's Digest.
All
Except
right.
I also have to imply that I'm
Give
scared
you
of the
highlights
Jews
magazine
or
for
something.
children.
So, yeah, shortages for the PS3. I do hope that works out. Obviously,
Final Fantasy 13 comes out soon too.
yeah. Well, it's out.
Yeah.
It's
It's
out.
out.
God of
It's
War is
out.
out.
Yeah.
To the God of War 3 point, I imagine there are a handful of people there that expect us to be talking ad nauseum about God of War 3. We are not. We're going to hold that for next week so you, the players, can also get a chance to play some of the game and appreciate our comments. Most everyone sitting at these tables was at GDC last week and have not had a chance yet since returning to play God of War 3. So just for anyone out there that thought that there was a lot of Kratos talk coming. But there's really good talk coming, and if I find out that you actually turned away at this point, I
just
will
got
go to
them
your
to hit
house
pause and
and
turn
I will
away.
pee on you.
Wow, really?
Whoa!
Yeah, well,
Is that
probably-
what higgledy-piggledy is?
No, fine. I'll just take a on their head. Anyway, so
I gotta bleep that.
Are you going
Sorry,
to
Joe.
record an album with R. Kelly next?
no, Chuck Berry. Anyway, moving on.
Excellent.
We gotta move on from these
Modern
NFTs.
Warfare 2. They're finally putting out the first map pack. It's made people a little cranky.
The stimulus package.
The stimulus package.
Yeah, and so they're putting out the first DLC. It's 3 new maps plus 2 older maps from the original Modern Warfare, and they're charging $15 for it. Doesn't have anything new from Spec Ops, so it's strictly for the other side of the multiplayer. And people seem to be pretty up in arms about the $15 price point, which I will then turn to Abby to
Oh, I don't feel
comment
passionately
on.
about this at all. No, I do. And actually, it's our second comment that I wanted to point out because I think that they make the best point.
And this is from Slay and Fool.
Yes. You know what would have been really cool? Considering all the problems Modern Warfare has had with glitches, hacks, and exploits, alienating its fans everywhere since release, Activision, Infinity Ward, and Microsoft could have done a very cool thing and said, thank you for all your support and patience. Now here's this map pack free of charge. Thank you. And that is the best argument that I've heard for, why the cost should be knocked down off of this. And because first of all, I did my nerdy calculations last night, and I went from when
This
the
is
map
awesome,
packs
by the
were
way.
first,
This
when
is
the map
great.
packs were first released for COD4. Because again, I got a late start on that, and so I'd maybe played 2 days at that point. And I finally took it up to 18 days, and I did the math, and it came out to, for what I paid for the map packs, coming out to just like seriously mere fractions of a cent for the amount of time I spent playing that game after. And I do feel of all the, I was mad because there were some headlines that were like, this is the most ridiculous thing we've ever seen and the worst, price DLC ever. And it's not. The value that I get out of playing these maps is incredible and lasts me years. And
Plus, you were also talking about the comparisons to what Bungie's done.
yes, because Bungie has, again, released their maps. I mean, it was 800 Microsoft points for 3 maps.
So $10.
Right. And if you divide that out, $3.33. So it depends on where you stand on the 2 maps from COD4. Frankly, I like those maps. I'm excited to see them in the game. I imagine that they've done something to them for rebalancing because it's a different game.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to see them.
I guess people are just, they seem to be
So-
anxious just over the 15, they're looking at the $15 thing as opposed to what you're getting for that $15.
Well, fine. If you're the casual player, don't then. But I will, and proudly.
Well, I
and
mean, let's be fair. Probably some of this also is that Activision's kind of in a PR nightmare with,
exactly,
with-
and that's why I don't
Yeah.
think people are being fair to it, and that's why I don't think people are pointing out that other companies have done the exact same thing, charged even more or the same amount for their maps, and nobody called as much bullshit on them as they called on Activision and Infinity Ward for this. And I'm sorry, I just don't think it's fair.
No. It's because, hey, we reported on the story about what was happening with IW and Activision, but it's not out of some sort of long-held grudge against Activision. It was a newsworthy story, and now this is. I mean, the problem is when you suddenly establish those narratives, then everything goes through the prism of that narrative, and I think this
Exactly,
is.
and you're going to see the backlash against it for, God, who knows when it'll end. Whenever the lawsuit does, and maybe
Well,
even after that.
And here's the thing: if I learned anything from Modern Warfare 2's release, especially on the PC side, Everyone likes to complain and
Yes.
bitch and whine. And the moment you see your friends playing those maps that you don't own, you're going to buy the map pack anyway.
Because nobody wants to be the jerk where it says in the screen, "Oh, well, we would play all the maps, but you're preventing us from doing that."
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I think the larger story is it is a little surprising to see the map pack come out without some degree of assurance that so many of the problems that have been plaguing Modern Warfare 2 online,
They have fixed a lot.
Okay.
This-
I
this
have
is-
not been on in.
this is kind of a long
It
time.
was.
Time
They were
too.
slow on a lot of the patching, but I mean, at this point, it's stemmed a bit.
That's good.
I've between travel and everything. I haven't been on.
Do you
half
think
as much as I'd
people?
like to, but
How much is this going to impact those people that have gotten really excited about Battlefield Bad Company 2? I mean, are they going to come right back into
Well, the thing is
Modern
also
Warfare?
that Bad Company 2 has had an enormous amount of server
They've
problems.
had-
problems.
yes,
So
that's what
I
happened.
think
to
a lot of that goodwill they had
Yeah.
at the start may have been hurt a little bit. Like, it's hard to tell. But whereas I thought Infinity Ward Activision had taken too long to release this map pack, I think between the server problems that Bad Company 2 had, I think they are in a position that if this map pack is really well received, that the balance could sway
and the
back to
Battlefield
them.
ones that are coming out are free, and they've said as much, which is really a great move on their part. But
And I think a very wise move
you
because
can
they
love
have,
two games.
Yeah.
I play both Battlefield and Modern
very different
Warfare,
games, yeah.
and I find the multiplayer different and and satisfying. I love them. So,
But no,
I
they
don't
have to be
know.
competing.
No,
They're
it's a big
warriors on a
battle.
digital battlefield.
Does it make an interesting
I don't know.
headline,
I
Abby?
just want to see people be fair about it and actually go back and look at how much map packs cost and
Well,
Math.
I think this Activision thing ties into some coverage from the True Crime Party that we're going to get to.
Can we talk
when
about
we're
strippers now?
We're going to talk about strippers when we get to GDC. We're going to do.
No!
We're going to move from strippers to Mark Rain.
Don't pause.
All right.
Mark Rain, because I want to find a violent segue
hope
that's
he's
going to cause
watching.
whiplash. So Epic
get more
Games,
than that.
no new games in 2010. Mark Rain
Yeah,
says.
I was talking to Mark Rain last week at GDC, and we were talking about like, well, what's the focus for you guys this year? And we kind of suspect, we haven't really known what they're up to. We know they're clearly working on multiple things. They own Chair, they own People Can Fly, who's making a game with EA, and they're assumingly working on another Gears project, maybe something else. So there's a lot going on over on the East Coast, but they haven't explicitly said anything. But Mark Rain was very, very candid about don't expect anything this year from them. And EA has talked about the People Can Fly project, which is People Can Fly is this Swedish studio that they picked up about a year
They
and a
made
half
Paying
ago.
Polish.
Yes.
Yes.
And so they're making something that is rumored to be called Bulletstorm with EA. But that's first quarter release next year. So that's
Yep.
not this year. And if you look at the fall release for Microsoft, they've got probably Halo Reach in September. They've got Fable 3 in October. Natal's November and December.
Yeah.
And then they've got Call of Duty filling up the shooter space. There's really not a whole lot of room. So
or need, really.
yeah, and so
I'm totally fine with it. Take your time.
we've been trying to wonder where does Gears of War 3 fit in, because the timeline would suggest that actually was coming this year. ODST kind of threw things off a little bit, but there was a rumor that came out of Edge saying that Gears of War 3 is coming in spring 2011, specifically April 8th, 2011, and then there was going to be a teaser soon. Who knows how much of that is rooted in truth, but regardless,
early next year makes sense.
it does kind of fit within the timeline. And then also the narrative we've seen this year so far with games is that games, if they're big enough, can launch in the January, February timeframe, and they can do really, really well.
Yeah.
So Mass Effect 2 and Bioshock 2, I think, give them a lot of leverage to push that
Yes.
to the spring and have a really great... I mean, if you can say you can roll from Natal in November and December, and if that doesn't go over well, don't worry, we've got Gears of War 3 coming in March or April. Like, that's a really good situation to be in.
Exactly, I agree. I mean, and our user comment says the same thing. That's don't release it in the fall, put it out in the spring. That's when we have time.
I mean,
away
I
from
have-
because
yeah.
I play every shooter. I
have
mean,
yet to hear complaints about the games coming out. I think
No.
we're the only ones that have complained a little bit because it's very hard to keep pace with everything that's coming out. But
Yeah.
that's a problem we do not deserve sympathy for. I mean,
Exactly.
really, I have not heard anyone say I don't know what to do about this.
plus it's usually better for a game to spend a longer time in development than a shorter one.
Yes,
Agreed.
except for a few games.
Yes, a couple, but I said the majority.
I can't,
Large.
I can't think what those games are now. I was working very hard in my head. Like, what is that game? Moving on.
What?
GDC.
Piggledy.
GDC. Let's talk a bit because we did do our field trip where we talked a lot about Move, but we didn't talk as much about some of the other games, and there were numerous games that were being showed off. Let's go ahead and start with True Crime.
Yeah, you and I both got to go see that.
Yes, and I believe you saw it later.
I
in
saw it
evening.
at the event.
This is an interesting looking game. This is not the game I thought I was going to be getting. It's my John Woo game that I've always wanted. That's not called Stranglehold.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, they were very frank about saying, yeah, those other true crime games, those kind of sucked. Don't worry about that. And I mean, it's like, why go through the time to come up with a new name, but why come up with a new name when you have a name that no one really remembers anyway? So call it True Crime again. And this one is radically different. I mean, it's not along the same lines of an open world sort of action
And you're
adventure.
an undercover cop.
And
that's where it all ends.
And then it's a completely different game. And this new studio, I forget what their name is.
United Front.
United
They're working
Front.
on Mod Nation Racers on the side as well.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and then this game looks really promising. Like I love the fact that the combat has a verticality to it. They're really encouraging you, kind of doing an almost Assassin's Creed like. You should be able to look around the environment and jump up things and do it very easily, as opposed to the awkwardly sort of like trying to jump on a box or something.
I can't get on that edge. No,
and I love any game that encourages you to have that verticality, because it just makes the running around and the combat that much more interesting.
And I love the idea that, like, more or less, oh, there's a gun over there. Grab that gun. Use a few bullets in it. And to watch someone do kind of a slide kick, take two guys out, grab a meat cleaver off a table, and then start hacking away at someone. It's so. I mean, I didn't realize I always wanted to do it until I saw it. And now I want to do that. Because
it just
seems in a game, right? You want to do that
in a game. Yes.
Right.
In a game.
I mean, it just creates that like dynamic combat that you don't see. It's a lot of just like get into cover, pop, 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 get into the next cover, pop, pop, pop. This seems like they're really encouraging you to do a lot of different melee, to grab a lot of different objects, not get tied to one sort of play style, and that's really cool, because not a lot of games really allow you.
It's
I
a
like
very
being
hard thing to
encouraged
pull off.
play around.
Yes.
Now, see, I'm curious because I was on home team, so I didn't get a chance to actually check it out. So does the combat feel kind of fluid, like almost like an Arkham sort of like combo? You hit somebody, you loop into this, you pick this up, and you go straight into like...
It's kind of the Arkham and Assassin sort of thing, where like you'll get in a group of characters sometimes, and you kind of do different things with them, but then it's also a lot of doing really wild tricks, kind of like what Stranglehold wanted to do.
Yeah.
Around like where you'll see a table and you can jump off it and do a kick that you take out three guys at once. And
a lot of stuff is context sensitive. Like, if that moment comes, get that button and then you can do the awesome thing. But it does look like that the straight up melee combat does have some interesting opportunities inside of it. Obviously, we didn't get a hands on with it, so I am interested to see what it's going to be like to play this game.
What I will say is that what was really interesting after when I was talking to the producers about it, the scriptwriter that was working on it, it's the story, we don't have too much of a sense of it. It involves like the triads and sort of the crime syndicates in Hong Kong. And when they originally were writing the storyline, they had one storyline they had pitched and written, but then the writer kept getting more and more trusted by the different like ex-triads he would talk to. And thus be told that he could talk to a deeper level of an ex-triad, and thus the story would change even more, because he kept getting deeper and deeper access to these ex-triads, because he was told from others that he could be trusted with this information.
How many ex-triads? I mean, it's a mob. They're gangsters. You can't. Is there a retirement package? How many of these guys can be available?
It's a Facebook group, so if you become a fan, that's where you start.
Their farm is awesome.
Exactly.
So
big Mob Wars fans.
So let's talk about this other thing that's come up about true crime. In the evening of the day that you and I saw it at the W Hotel in San Francisco, there was a party. This is a very frequent thing that happens in the industry, not just at GDC. Because one thing that's I think important to note is that the showing of true crime was just using GDC to do that. It did not happen on the floor. They knew press were going to be there. It was themed to be like a place in Hong Kong, which is where the game takes place, and there were women dancing on poles. Were they taking their clothes off? I don't remember.
No, they weren't taking their clothes off.
Okay, so anyway, there's been numerous attacks on Activision for having the audacity to have strippers who were not stripping dancing on poles at a party to celebrate the game.
Which I have seen at other events by other companies, just not all specifically at
Feeding
GDC.
into that, like Activision right now probably could give you a bucket of gold, and it's like, oh my god, I'm going to hurt my back carrying this back home with me. But I think the other thing that kind of shocks me is this is mild compared to what happens in other industries like banking. You sound
like you know something about that, Adam.
I have to say, I mean, there are moments where the shock and prudishness that not just in readers but in the press of things like this is a little bit like, guys, we have to lighten up a little bit.
Well, it's like if you wanted to use that as a stepping stone to a larger problem about how publishers treat the press, fine. That's open.
Well, that's
field
exactly,
for
and that was
but,
my point about it. I mean, like, if you want to make a larger point about fine, but nobody was doing that.
So the
with it.
article kind of ended with just I
God.
just got uncomfortable that a woman talked to me, and so I left.
Well, here's something. I bet no one's going to admit to this, but I think one of the headlines was GDC is not a place for strippers. Have you been to the Gold Room
Which is
during
right next door.
GDC?
Yes.
There's
My
a lot
God,
of dudes
that
with those
is-
big
Yes,
cats.
I have.
I know that they bring
The buffet
in
is
other
amazing.
strippers from other places to handle the influx during GDC. It's just
Convention. Like, I mean,
It's every gaming convention.
I
Anybody who's
hate-
been to
yeah.
Germany knows that.
convention.
I hate to I usually hate to pull the like girl card, but oh my god, if I haven't been complaining for the past God knows how many years I've now been doing this, now is the time to start.
The cross,
Like,
the true crime.
You know,
crossed
the
the
booth
line.
babes and stripper, and frankly, none of that bothers me because I'm not sexually repressed enough to really care.
Yeah, I mean, it's also they weren't stripping; they were dancing on a pole, so it was
Right.
acrobatic. So
So it's like going to Jumbo's Clown Room in
acceptable.
Hollywood.
Exactly.
You know, I don't know.
All right, enough of that. P.S. Move, Sterling, I want to hear your reaction because the three of us have talked about it, and we were there, and it's always a little bit kind of, for you not getting a chance to have your hands on it, what was your takeaway from the announcement of the PS Move?
A few people around the office kind of huddled around my cubicle as we were watching the presentation video, and all of us unanimously agreed, this product is not for us.
Yeah, I just did a soapbox pretty much saying that. Now, does that mean it's a bad product?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that there's a very negative feeling towards it. And while I can't say I was, it's revolutionary and I was, like, oh, this is going to change anything, I'm terribly excited for it, I also didn't think this is terrible.
No, but at the
No.
same time,
It's early on too, and who knows? Somebody might come out with something that is absolutely one of the greatest games you've ever seen for it. Who knows?
I guess I don't like if they want to pitch it as a casual thing, pitch it as a casual
Yeah.
thing. I think
Yeah.
they're doing themselves a disservice if they're saying no, we're doing a split with the hardcore. We're doing the casual thing. We're doing the hardcore thing. Play it like it is. Like if it's gonna be a casual device, it's along the same line as an iToy. I think the response would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they grafted it onto SOCOM after one of the biggest complaints about the Wii was just grafting controls onto existing
Yeah.
genres. Every time we liked it was when it made sense, or the occasional time we were proven wrong with Metroid Prime, but that was the occasional time we're proven wrong. Largely, grafted controls don't work. And so when they were saying our expectation for hardcore games with this PlayStation Move should be taking that and grafting onto games where we're already comfortable with the different control set, it's a disservice to themselves, and it doesn't sell the product for what it should be, or at least what I think they're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think being able to use both devices for a hardcore game, they really are kind of taking the specialness away from how motion controls should be implemented. I just remembered. Remember the Warhawk demo when the 6-axis was introduced?
Yes.
We now know how little time that dev had with this tech. Did you get any sense of how long Zippers had with this for the demo that we saw?
They've all had it since about October, November timeframe.
that's
Like last
reasonable, yeah.
fall is about when they finally had the final hardware. And I
I
think
know. I wouldn't say it's final hardware.
they had enough that they could actually start
Sure.
prototyping things. But I mean, that was obvious from all the games you saw. They were all with big bold letters, 20% done,
Pre-alpha,
work in progress,
yeah.
pre-alpha. The titles aren't even decided for these games. I mean, so much of this stuff is so early. But I mean, I think we brought this up in the talk about. They just need to get ahead of the Project Natal narrative. Like before
Yes.
Microsoft makes their big push, they need to say, well, there's the Wii, we have the Wii HD, and then here's Microsoft's thing. They needed to get out there before E3 because by all accounts, Microsoft is going to be huge with Natal at E3, and they don't want what happened to them with the Wii. They don't want to come out and look like an afterthought, and that's what they looked like last year with their motion was. Maybe their whole time was just we were going to have some technical stuff, but it looked sloppy. Even if they had more substance than Natal, it looked sloppy, and they can't afford to have that again. This year, they need to come out on a strong footing, and if they've already showed their tech demos, then they can show some real games, some real announcements at E3, and kind of come up a little stronger.
And it'll
against
be
the fall.
interesting to see how much of that skews casual and if any of it skews hardcore. Because I was like talking about earlier, my hands know how to play video games, and it's actually kind of ruining my whole hardcore aspect of it when you put something that's unfamiliar in my hand. I mean, I guess so. I've played the Wii now, so maybe but I don't like that. That's basically me relearning something that I already know how to play instinctively. I
can't imagine. We sound like a bunch of old ladies who are upset because they changed the schedule for their stories. But I agree with you 100%, Abby.
I think the one really important thing, though, is when they were announcing everything, they said, we are going to package Move with PlayStation 3 hardware. And in my opinion, however they want to do it, if they want to do it through price drops, it needs to be competitive with the Wii. If that makes it $50 more than a Wii, however they're going to do it, by hook or crook, or they lose their shirts.
Yeah, maybe
It's
like
gotta
$50 more, and then they really say motion control and Blu-ray player.
Well, I think if you're
Not
trying
bad.
to sell,
They
I think if you're
have
trying
to.
to sell something that's really, I mean, I guess from, I gathered from what we saw there for families, then you can't just sell a bundle that only has one in it.
Yes.
I mean, you need to start selling like family bundles.
That's- I
you need to
think-
start selling stuff that has enough for everybody in your household,
Unless
or at
they
least
do,
2 people or 3, or how
Unless they do what they did with Wii Play, and they have some cheap game that they throw in, and they throw it in as an incentive with the
Well, they're
remote.
not going to
Hell,
be
they've already
bundling that
ripped
with
off the
SOCOM
remote.
4.
They've already ripped off the remote anyway. Why not rip off the best
The
package
problem
Nintendo's
is, so
done?
the Wii's already bundled in. Wii Play is the accessory to
Yes.
the Wii. This is where you're buying into. Probably already have bought a PS3, or maybe you're buying I mean, maybe if the bundle comes with 2, it would
Yeah.
strike me as insanity if the PS3 hardware bundle does not come with at least 2
it
of those.
needs 2 at
Yeah,
the
it
minimum.
def- I
It needs
agree.
2.
I
I agree,
understand
for
that
sure.
the $100 bundle that's just got the eye and the Move and a game. Okay, I get that. I still think it should have 2, but
Yeah,
I get
I do
the
too.
price problem. But if that bundle, the PlayStation Move family bundle, doesn't have 2, then you're just throwing. I mean,
suicide.
Yeah, it's just.
But
But
you
then
know-
you might have such a high price point, you're going to scare
That's
the
the
consumer.
thing.
Okay, but
I
when
mean,
the
that's
PS3 launched, they launched with something that was way above their competitors' price points, and then
So
they
this
kind of
is-
sucked it up and saw how that played out over the years. And I mean, do you think that's paid it off enough that this might pay off somewhere in the future, or do they need to learn from their
that's-
mistakes,
I mean,
cut the
that's-
price on it, lose a bunch of money on it to make money in the future? I
Sony,
don't know.
I
Sony
agree.
needs a loss leader with this.
Yeah.
I agree with you. We also kind of want to hit on some stuff that we don't get to spend enough time talking about here on the show, and that's DLC that has been released. So let's start with the one that just came out for Heavy Rain. This is an interesting piece of DLC because we're terribly familiar with it, because this is the demo of Heavy Rain that we have seen for the past 2.5 years. And I have to say, as a demo, it's awesome. I haven't gotten
Yep.
a chance to play this one. Have any of you?
We've been playing it for 2 years.
That's a good point. We haven't played the
I haven't-
Taxidermist for 2 years.
I haven't had a chance to play, but I do like the concept behind the DLC of kind of giving us more background to these characters that we've already seen how their story plays out, but then getting a little more insight into how their characters and their characteristics of those characters. So I think that I like this stuff.
I would almost like to see more stuff like this. I mean, when you interviewed David up at GDC, they're talking about things that got left out of the game or didn't make it, and I would play any of them.
Yeah.
I would play absolutely anything that they put on the cutting room floor. Just
It's gonna be a 3-year wait to our next one.
Yeah,
so.
I know, right?
Maybe they have one where you're Madison and you're just writing a story for the paper. I mean, I would do that. I would play that.
Actually, it sounds exciting, and all of a sudden she's like, I really want some coffee right now. Let me
What's
go
that
and get her
word?
for a cup.
What's that word?
In fact, I think it's actually more interesting to play the Taxidermist now after having seen it demoed. And I would recommend to anybody who's kind of been following the game or paying attention
Yes.
to just pick
You
it
really-
up to see what we had been experiencing and why we were talking about the game as much as we were.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
to
Good
a
point.
scene that it was almost
Yeah.
surprising when you played the game and it wasn't there.
Yeah, no, it's because it is, I think, more exciting than any one chapter in Heavy Rain because they smashed everything
Yeah.
together into one. It's really quite something.
Yeah, it's interesting because I read a review online someone wrote where they were like, yeah, this DLC takes 10 minutes to play, but it seems like that's about how much time they took into programming it. And I'm like, wow, without
Have you
context.
not
that's-
paid attention?
Yeah, have you not been paying attention?
Yeah.
This is the same tech demo they've been showing for 2
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, making assumptions is kind of stupid.
Yes,
So,
it is.
Abby, what's making you the most happy person in the world these days?
Borderlands Secret Armory General Knox.
How
which
good is it?
Better than the game that came in the box.
Ooh,
How big is
wow.
it?
Really big. I've talked to you too much about this. No, it's super fun. What is really cool about it is, one, there's a ton of loot. What sucks about it is there's no fast travel, which is a technical problem. With
that's
the
true for all the DLC, though.
That's not really. I'm sure they would like the fast travel. Sorry, you can't have it. There's a lot of driving, but the new vehicles are cool. There's a ton of looting. There's like raid bosses that level 64. I have a little raid planned later. But the way that they make you use the strategy of the elemental weapons, of everything that you kind of acquired and played through the games, you're constantly in a lot of the battles switching weapons, finding different things that work. It is so awesome, and the new characters are phenomenal. And Mr. Shank is hilarious, and General KNOXX is awesome because I made Adam sit down and listen to the
No,
tapes
it's
because
really funny. Now, it sounds like also, though, as opposed to the main game and Zombie Island of Dr. Ned, you can't go alone in this unless you're crazy.
You can if you. The way to do it is to level up to about 50 something and then start on your second playthrough. If you start on your first playthrough and you're too high level, you won't get enough XP. If you start really low, you should just play it as like the final part because you're going to want to, and the loot's better and all that jazz. It is good to have friends. Playing this one, it really is.
The game itself is just a really fun game to play with friends. But it sounds like
I've had no problem finding
challenges.
people to play this one with because it seems to be as loved everywhere as I love it so much.
Well, if a game has
Sorry,
a quirky
Adam,
name,
tell you.
Patrick tends to be really into it.
Yeah. What are you stereotyping me?
I'm not. You're stereotyping you with that hair and all that frizzy.
Yeah,
there.
I recently finished up The Misadventures of PB Winterbottom, which is an Xbox Live Arcade game from 2K Games that was developed by a couple of students at USC, I believe. And yeah, if you liked Braid, like you'll like this game. It plays a lot of the same mechanics.
I like this more.
Yeah,
It's not as dour
Yeah.
as Braid.
yeah.
It was much in a way lighthearted.
It's very
it's
and
funny too.
I managed to start it and finish it on Pi Day and not be aware of the fact that I was playing a game where you were collecting pies. So, go me.
Pi Day being March 14th.
Yes.
Yes. Which
And
is pi, the symbol.
different kinds. Yeah,
Yes.
different kinds of pie, but still pie nonetheless. But yeah, if you like games that take platformers and sort of turn them on their head with different like time techniques and time manipulation,
It's a
this
very creative game.
This game will blow your mind.
I'm
I
going
really
to
enjoy
second
it.
the
you
art
on that.
style and
Yes.
everything about it is
You might want to
kind of
mute the
delightful.
music after a while, but
Yeah.
that's about it.
I mean,
first it's
I
cute.
don't know how well it's selling, but I know
It
that
deserves more. Whatever
it
Yeah.
deserves more. I know that some people, when they see a quirky name like that, and then they see the art style, but really, especially when you consider who made this game, it is really a remarkable,
and we saw it on
polished product.
PC,
Yeah.
last year, and then it's been this, journey since 2K picked them up and then published the game on Xbox Live, and it's just kind of really nice. Like, I want to support them too because
Yes.
that's really great. They made a really great little game. It got picked up, and now you
Yes.
can get it on Xbox Live, and that's kind of. It seems like that would be a dream come true, but I guess only if people buy it.
Yeah.
So let's just say it this way: feedback heartily endorses The Misadventures of PB Winterbottom.
Ding.
Bottom. Anyway, Sterling.
Yes.
We're moving in exactly the opposite direction. DLC for you, RE5, the Gold Edition.
I would like to go on the record and say I'm one of the few people in this room who actually enjoyed Resident Evil 5.
Well, enjoyed and thought it was great.
No, I thought it was.
He
I really
really
liked
liked
it.
Blair Herter is with his shirt off. This is why Blair Shirter.
Okay, that's scarier than anything in Resident Evil 5.
Done with this podcast.
Okay, so summarize it quickly. Capcom just re-released Resident Evil 5. This was their kind of greatest hits package by making Gold Edition, which is $50. You have all the DLC, the Versus multiplayer mode that came out last year, the Lost in Nightmares DLC episode that came out a few weeks ago, and Desperate Escape, which just came out 2 weeks ago. All bundled for $49.99. To be honest, Versus mode didn't really grab my attention that much. I thought Lost in Nightmares, I actually wrote a verdict on that, thought it was a fantastic homage to the classic Resident Evil style, everything down to the mansion, the environmental puzzles. They did a great job with that. Desperate Escape kind of feels like their homage to Left 4 Dead, everything down to throwing as many insane enemies that will kill you as possible and telling you the rescue chopper's showing up in about 5 minutes. Run around and try to survive. They try it. It doesn't quite work as well because you can't play it as well single player. You really, really need a friend to play with you, and I don't know who's still playing RE5 right now.
I was doing Lost in Nightmares, so
Lost in Nightmares is okay. I'll go back through Lost in Nightmares.
Look,
I'll play
buddies
with you.
made here on feedback.
Look at that, bringing
Yay!
people together. But to be honest, when you break it all down, for the life of me, I can't figure out why you wouldn't just go out if you haven't played RE5, go get a used copy of RE5, spend $5 to get Lost in Nightmares. The end.
All right, so really that's the thing of
That's
true value.
what you need.
I think Patrick and I would be probably not even advising the playing of the RE5.
Still working on trying to get past that swamp level.
That's
Oh,
enough
yeah.
from Peanut Gallery.
Or not.
Well, thank you for all the DLC and all the input there and for everything. I want to move on to our question of the week about the PlayStation Move from L Smooth. Hi, L. I've accepted that the PlayStation Move is basically just Wii HD. With that said, I foresee a bunch of prettier, pricier, yet equally crappy Wii-like shovelware games coming at us in the near future. Do you guys agree, or do you think that Sony will do something to curb the crap games? And if you do think they will, what are you smoking?
God, I'm
So
glad
apparently
I
El
agree.
Smooth has already made up his mind. We don't need to answer
That's
this for him.
loaded.
But I need to tell him what I'm smoking. But kids, you shouldn't smoke. So I won't let you know what brand. Oh, he means drugs. Oh, that's funny. It is interesting. How many games do you think are going to be sold at retail versus are going to be on the PlayStation Network? Because I think it points to a lot of like his question points to a lot of that the crappy shovelware games that he's referring to, of which there are in abundance, are just out there on the shelf selling for $60.
If Sony's plan is to sell most of those through downloadable, I would just point you to how successful WiiWare or Virtual Console have been with the mainstream, which is not at all.
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
And so if you reach these people through retail, none of these people you can rely on to be internet connected or check websites or go to even sites like ours for their coverage. Like those people they're talking to are totally somewhere else, and they go in and they look at a shelf and they're like, what should I buy? And that's why they buy Mario Kart and Wii Fit, because those are the games that you get recommended to by someone at Best Buy or someone at EB Games. And it's not when you go and check the new releases on PSN.
I mean, so do you guys think that Sony may be aware of the fact that, probably not for the average Wii consumer, but it's well known that there's about 85% horrible
They
things?
have to be paying attention to that.
So do you think
Definitely.
Sony might actually make an effort to try to kind of, do some quality control on these games?
If it sells, why would they? If they're making a bunch of money off of the licensing of something like Just Dance HD, their incentive is to continue to make
Because
money
you
off
would really
of that.
be surprised at some of the titles that actually sell a lot that you would there's generally off of our radar.
No, you're right.
Like Carnival Games, which is one of the best sellers in Wii, complete accident.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
was not marketed as though it was going to be a huge game, and it went on to quietly sell millions and millions
Well,
of
because
copies.
I think that there are certain games that sell well because an uninformed consumer could mix them up with another game.
Yeah.
Carnival games and we play in many ways. I don't know any better,
So this feels like the same concept.
I went in for Heavy Rain and I came back with an iPad.
I will say,
Weird half
however,
human monkey thing.
Yeah, we need to talk about that in a second.
no, I will say though, the one thing I do expect is a lot of awesome stuff coming out of EA Sports. Like, I think Tiger Woods 11 on PS3, if it's patched for Move, is going to be mind blowing. And I imagine they had announced they were going to do Grand Slam Tennis for 360 and for PS3.
It sounded like they both got delayed so they could both be
Incorporate motion
Yeah.
controls, exactly. I think EA is chomping at the bit.
I think that they might be the initial beneficiary of this. Let's talk about the Wii HD thing, because everyone's like, oh, it's just Wii HD.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Thank you!
It's not a negative. That's, I mean,
No, I would actually, as we did in our
Yeah.
feedback field trip, I
Because
would like
I don't
to
think
see a
we're
lot of
getting it
those
from
games in
Nintendo
HD.
anytime
No,
soon.
because Nintendo has repeatedly said whatever we do that's different is probably a couple years down the line and a lot different than just a Wii HD, and they have no incentive to do it. And I think Microsoft's going in a different direction with no accessory, and so it makes sense for someone to step in and do just Wii HD, because I think what they might be with the hardcore part, they might be counting on, there are a lot of people that literally just want a Wii experience in high definition, and that we would happily pay
But I
for
want the
pay
Wii.
games.
I want the first-party Nintendo games in HD.
I know.
I know that's the one bummer, but there might be
I
a
want
handful
Zelda
of
in
games
HD.
that were originally designed for the Wii that there might be viable because of what they could do with the graphics.
Absolutely.
To move it over to the PlayStation 3, and I think right there is probably one of the best aspects of what does get me moderately enthused about it.
Yeah, it's like in the field. That's what I said. I want my rail shooters. I want to see a bunch of games that came out for the Wii. I want to see them redone, and I want to play them in glorious HD.
And think about it, with that awesome MLB game from Sony that just came out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to think of how motion control might be incorporated into that, because
Sure.
wow, actually, I just thought of that now, and I was like, oh, that might be really cool. So, with me having thoughts to myself that I think are cool, we're going to wrap out this
Cautiously
week. I do want to remind our viewers, if you have not seen the preponderance, the amount, the massing of GDC stuff that's on our website, then you are doing yourself a disservice. You should go there right now. Obviously, it's on the very website that you're watching feedback on. So if I tell you, Earl, I'm implying that you're kind of stupid. G4TV.com. With that, I would like to thank our panelists here, Patrick Klepek, Abby Heavy, Sterling McGarvey, for joining us. We will, of course, be back next week, and that is going to be our big God of War 3 edition, where still the only person taking their shirt off will be Blair, but he's going to be doing it in a dark room that will have a lock on it. It should be a good one. Check it out.
Shirter.
Do you play World of Warcraft or one of its 1,000 clones? Do you know what a mob or pug is? Then you'll want to make sure to check out the MMO Report. It gives you all the massively multiplayer online news you can want in a neat little package named Casey Schreiner. Check out all new episodes every Thursday over at g4tv.com/MMO. You're welcome.